Well, welcome. It's finally Friday, and we get to do another big freaking Friday show here on the College Football Mafia. Nate will not be joining us today. He is traveling, so we wish safe travels to Nate. I am joined here by Wild Ute and Immaculate. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
What's up?
Happy Friday.
Happy
Good,
Friday.
good, good. Just want to start off with this.
Oh.
That's our friend Greg Flugar. I heard that yesterday and I couldn't help myself. So
The Godfather
that
chant.
is that is now on the soundboard permanently. So when somebody makes a good point, we will go to Greg's O face and do the O.
That is indeed the O face.
So let's kick it off right now. We're going to start with, as soon as I figure out how to share my screen here. We're going to start off with employees revenue sharing. From Ross Dellinger here at Yahoo Sports. Make sure I hit the stage. I don't know if anybody had a chance to read this article. I'm going to go ahead and share the article within here as well.
In great detail.
This article is probably the best article for
Yes.
the employment revenue sharing option that's come out recently. Very, very good.
The ESPN one, but this one was much more detailed.
Right. I'm going to go through a little bit of this here. Like I said, I'm not going to read the full article. If you want to, I put that in chat. Money figures are becoming clear for those in the power conferences. The price tag is steep. The 10-year settlement agreement could cost each power school as much as $300 million over the decade, or $30 million a year. That figure assumes a school meets what is believed to be one, a $17 to $22 million revenue distribution cap for athletes. Two, at least $2 million in withheld NCAA distribution for back damages, and three, as much as $10 million in additional scholarship costs related to an expansion of sport-specific roster sizes, a concept previously unpublicized. The $30 million price tag, a startling figure for an industry that has only provided athletes with mostly non-cash resources, is about 20% of the average athletic department budget of public schools in the ACC, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12. However, as reported earlier this week, the revenue sharing portion of the new model is permissive, meaning schools are not required to reach the cap or share revenue at all. Schools will also have the discretion to expand scholarships or not across new roster limit expected to be implemented across all sanctioned sports. All right, Immaculate, what do you got for us on that?
If you roll back up just a little bit, just to kind of explain something people might not have quite understood what they were saying, because it sounds like there's actually going to be a whole lot more scholarships. I think it's right there at the bottom, right there in the middle. And what they're doing is for sports like baseball, which were only had like a few of the players would actually get scholarships and the rest would be paying to go to school and play baseball there. They're going to be giving scholarships across the board. So my take on it, I don't know what you guys think, is that this is their way of, shall we say, buying some votes. This is a student-based class action lawsuit. So to get everyone on board, it looks like they're going to have to expand their scholarship base through these sports that are generally not considered to be revenue and generating. So that's going to be interesting to see. That's going to be a lot more kids getting scholarships due to this. It's not just money in the hands of the very best and most known. This is actually going to help out a wide variety of these kids. So I thought that was pretty cool about this part to see. And it wasn't just about money in certain hands. But as you can see here, I mean, this is going to be conference specific. Not every conference is going to be paying out the same amount. I actually think the SEC and Big Ten are going to be paying more than the likes of the Big 12, ACC. I'm not even sure where the G5 is going to fall into this. That's a big question mark. I don't know what you think about that, but I don't know if they meet into these criteria. They certainly weren't defendants on the House case. So they might be having an entirely different holding on this. What do you think?
I'm thinking, what's in it for the power schools? This is great. Man, $30 million per year per school in the power conferences? Heck yeah. If I'm an old player and stuff that's retired or I'm a current player, that's great stuff right there. And also more scholarships seems like a pretty dang good deal for the student athletes or just the athletes, whatever we want to call them going forward. But really, why would the power schools capitulate to this? There's no guarantee that this is going to change anything. More lawsuits could come if you settle here, unless the government comes into play. So I don't see, I couldn't advise a client to accept something like this. Like, what is in it for the power schools? Does this get other lawsuits off their back? No, there's no guarantee of that. So really, while this is a good idea, I guess, it's only one-sided. And I'm having a hard time seeing why any of the power schools would accept this without letting it go to a formal ruling and a trial.
Now, if they all come to an agreement, let's say, just, a figurative agreement, nothing totally finalized, all parties, schools, conferences, NCAA, students, lawyers, everybody, could they then go to Congress, do you think, and say, we're all in agreement on this. We just need you to pass these laws to make this possible? If there's no political blowback whatsoever, don't you think that possibly maybe they could actually get something through?
So you're saying that flesh that out a little bit more.
Well, like you're saying, if you would advise a client to not take this because there's no guarantees in the future that this won't happen again. But if they get something codified by Congress to support this, then that takes care of that problem.
Absolutely.
And I
think
kind
that's
of where
the
I think they're
solution.
going.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of this too. And if that is in play there, and there's no additional settlements that are going to come down the line, something like this structure of a settlement makes sense. But it's way more expensive than you'd ever imagine. Yeah. $30 million per year?
It's brutal. When I first saw this, I had to have a drink. I was like, "Are you fucking?"
It's wild.
That's a lot.
That's so much, and then it begs the question. I know that they're saying in this Yahoo article that hey, there's going to be more scholarships, and in fact, the baseball college association was writing about, hey, this is great. This House case is going to bring more scholarships to baseball schools. Is it really though? Do you think it's really going to do that?
It seems to be in the plan, and I think that's how you get votes. Because remember, this isn't just about the elite few athletes; it's a class action suit, and basically, that's probably going to get a whole bunch of the people who would be involved with that suit to say okay. Yeah. If most of those guys here were going to get scholarships, they're cool. They're not trying to make millions. They're not trying to get in. I mean, that's a benefit for them. At that point, you're saying yes, right? Oh God, I'm not going to go into life and be saddled with all this debt. That's a huge gain for these guys. So, kind of keeping things in perspective for all the different people that are involved with this. It's not just superstar athletes. It's some of them are just guys playing baseball to get their degree,
sure, and
then go out into life like all the rest of us. So. That's kind of the interesting thing about this is it's so wide ranging. The people being affected by this are all the way from your top end athletes worth millions to just folks who are just getting an education and playing a sport along the way who basically have been doing it on their own dime and may not have to now. So call me weird, but I'm actually kind of excited for those folks that, you have a chance to get a scholarship now.
Now, what do you guys think about NIL being taken in-house and essentially being limited as to what it is now, where it's kind of a free market, laissez-faire, nobody's touching it? We've got schools I won't name any, but Ohio State, Ohio State, Georgia. Some of these schools are approaching the 20 million or higher mark already, just in NIL deals. So what do you think about this being brought in house? Do you think that's fair to current players versus what it is now, the Wild Wild West and highest bidder wins?
Let me just say this real quick, and then you take over on that. Remember, we just found out that this has been going on for 8 months. So now we got to turn back the clock and think back at all the things that have happened and add into the context of those situations that this was going on. And what first comes to mind to me is when the commissioners went to Congress to talk to them, and we were like, oh, shit, there is nothing to this. It's nothing to it at all. Well, this was going around in the background. So there was something to it. And as far as we know, they might have given a little direction at that point in time of what they would and wouldn't possibly agree to. So, when you're looking at some things like that, I think that's probably within the parameters to get this approved by Congress.
Bringing NIL in house is really beneficial for the athletes that wouldn't get an NIL deal.
It makes it more controlled
in the market, right? Like it makes it more controlled. So it's basically like essentially a minimum wage, an NIL deal that the conference school's providing. Then your excess wages are still going to be paid by your corporate entities, boosters, or whomever. That's not going to change. Like that's still going to be a major part of college athletics. So it's like, it's tough. I don't think that bringing NIL in-house is going to be a huge game changer at the end of the day. I think it's just going to compensate all the athletes a little bit more, but the big deals, the crazy stuff that we're seeing in the NIL landscape, unless there's more governance over it externally, is just going to be the same. Because like, why wouldn't it be? Like if everyone's on a fair playing field, Ohio State's not going to accept that. Their boosters are going to say, shoot, you know what? Like they could make, $10,000 a month or whatever. If from the school, I'm just going to throw a couple million at this player so I can bring him on campus and everything because they want to win, of course. So it's just going to be the same situation we're in. We're just funding more and more money to the players. I mean, like everything we're talking about, just more money, $30 million in house settlement to the former players, everything, $30 million per year, more money in NIL. Like these players are just getting, like, it's nuts, guys. This is nuts.
What if in order to get to pass by Congress, they have to go through the athletic department? Like it used to, like right now, the NIL collectives, they can just go direct to the student. So if the athletic departments are now going to be in the business of having the student sign a contract, signing over their NIL rights to the school for a base amount of pay and maybe further inducements based upon what options come to the athletic department. Now your NIL collective and whatever deals that they bring in together, they got to come to the athletic department. So it's still going to be the athletic department paying those kids. And that's maybe the level of control that Congress would want to see. Like, yeah, all this is going to be involved, but it's going to come through you, and you in the end are going to be responsible for it, athletic department. Under that type of a deal, we could probably get everyone to agree to it. Because the way it is now, I don't think that Congress would dare approve that. I mean, that's Wild West. I mean, they're going to want it controlled and someone that they can point to and say, you're responsible, you're at fault. Very easy, very simple. Yeah. So I think that that's part of it. And I think that was actually what was probably portrayed to them when they went to Congress however many months back, because secretly behind the scenes, they were already having these discussions.
Do you think that Congress is going to put a kibosh on outside NIL contracts? Is that kind of what you're saying? That hey, we're going to limit this or prevent this and like basically provide governance that is not acceptable to get NIL outside of the school?
I think you still will. They'll just have to come pay. They'll have to come make the deal with the athletic department. And so then the athletic department will disperse to the student to control it. Like it's just, that way it's all, because all of that too, especially if it's like public schools, that's FOIA requests. That's open knowledge. Now everyone kind of knows. Like there's none of this there's less chance for shady dealings. It's still possible, but it's much more controlled, much more visible. So I think that those will still exist. I mean, those people are going to want to keep their jobs and they're going to know what they're doing and they're going to have connections so they can bring these opportunities in. And that's one less thing that the athletic departments have to hire on themselves. They don't have to pay employees. They don't have to pay benefits and all that stuff. So I think that the collectives will still exist. They'll just be dealing with the athletic departments instead of the kids directly.
Interesting.
But
do you
in
think,
essence, this is a salary cap.
Yeah,
This is a salary
yeah,
cap.
100%.
Let's be honest. It's a salary cap to prevent the bigger schools from they don't want
Outpacing.
they don't want $100 million but they are giving an option to where it's a sliding scale on how much
Mhm.
you choose to spend or not spend, but they do have a cap on it.
I
Let's
think it was
say
a
hello
big
to
day for the Big 12 and the ACC. I mean, you'll be able to spend less than them if you need to, but if you want to, you can slide up and pay the same amount as them and compete with them if you want. They're the ones that are basically, because of this 22%, they're probably the top end, so they don't have a choice. Like, they're going to have to pay this amount. As you go down the line, you're going to have more decision making on your own if you want to try and keep up in spending, or if you want to try and make do with maybe paying a little less.
Yeah. Donors are definitely still going to be there handing out the bags. Let's say
Oh,
hello
yeah.
to some people
Yeah, I
who
mean-
came in early here.
Bags.
Our friend Buckshot Kid is first. Actually,
What's
he's
up?
second, but we'll give him this. Oh, hey, the College Football Mafia. Hey, Buckshot Kid. Joaquin Morales. Hey, CFM fam. Don't forget to smash that like button. It's free. Let's go. Thank you. Smash that like button. Pokes fan. Hey, howdy all. There's a school in the Big 12 right there that can spend the max. They've got the donor
Absolutely.
money. They could spend the max to make a power team right there. Daniel Kopcha, who's ready for another big freaking Friday? I'm ready. It's Friday. Let's go. I got a little Frank and the boys on the reel to reel back there, and we're gonna party. Antoine Codes. Well, today was not a great day, but at least the show is going to be fire. I hope your day gets better now that you're here with us, Antoine.
Georgia Tech. Antoine
Georgia
Code,
Tech.
Georgia Tech.
All right.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. It's Friday. It has been a rough day. Had some dental work, guys. A lot of dental work today, so recovering.
Well,
Yeah.
drink twice as much.
You need that. You need that sweet, sweet elixir. Rock Chalk is here. Hey guys, excited to see AACC die, but nervous
Guys are out for
about Big
blood.
12 in Kansas long term.
Yeah, those are valid concerns there. Like, and we need to brainstorm and give ideas to your mark on how to make the Big 12 thrive, survive, and gobble the ACC. Because we're in the same boat, several of us over here.
Illini Ted, my Illini brother, who's very active in the Discord. By the way, if you want to join the Discord, it's in the description. Don in Kansas. Here we go, Georgia Tech.
Let's go.
You gets off easy every week. He drinks like an IPA.
I know.
And like
What's-
we drink bourbon.
I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what you're doing over there. How much do you finish in that, Moan? Right there, that Crown bottle. These are small pulls, right? Sometimes.
I don't know. He goes through those pretty well.
I go through about a bottle a week, so I can't do it with that bourbon though. Boy, that bourbon's got a kick to it.
Man,
Yeah, this one's got a little kick. I got a bullet right now.
Big Lubbock, you didn't miss much. We were just talking about
Just
how
kidding,
these
though.
guys are getting way overpaid and we're getting way underpaid. And Nate's not. Nate's not here. He's out traveling on the corporate credit card. Illini Ted brings up a great point, and I hope this doesn't mean some sports get cut because schools decide they can't afford this amount. Let's talk about that briefly. How do you think that will be handled if the school decides they want to spend as much money as possible on football, maybe getting rid of some of the smaller sports?
I think that's going to happen. That is almost guaranteed to happen because if the house settlement case is taking $30 million and the players are getting more from in-house NIL and everything, that was money that was going to the schools before to fund coaches, to fund stadiums, to do all the things that your program needs to do for recruiting expenses. Now that money is called for from the players. And so rather than spend less on football, guys, they're going to continue to spend as much on football or more. They're just going to cut the other sports in the athletic program. So rather than more scholarships, there's going to be a lot less scholarships and a lot less sports. I mean, that's the reality of this thing. Like, you fund the beast that makes you money. And football makes you money. And football's an arms race, as we know, and stuff. So funding non-revenue sports is a luxury, and football's a necessity. So I think it's pretty clear to see that's going to happen.
I think it depends largely upon whether we go with just a revenue sharing plan, which does not include actually becoming employees, or if they actually become employees. If they become employees, well, now you've got a whole host of other problems that go along with this as well. And yeah, I think they're going to get rid of sports. But if it's just a revenue sharing, I don't know if it's as necessary. I mean, it really comes down to what the NIL agreement will be for every athlete, what they'll pay each individual. And then if they're already planning for how much was that in new scholarships that they're talking? It was quite a lot. So they're already preparing and planning for that. So it almost kind of feels like it's part of the agreement. Because remember, there's 3 lawsuits that are all involved with this right here, because they all have the same lawyer and law team controlling them all. So they're merging it all into one settlement. And part of that is about the future. So I think that if they just go the revenue distribution route, I think they're trying to not do employment, because if employment happens, I think that people really need to start thinking about unintended consequences of that and what's going to happen. How many will lose their scholarships? Now, I know that not everyone has scholarships now, but some do. And some, but by having that sport there, they have maybe partial scholarships. So I think people should be real careful about the full details.
I love how there's a pile of money on the table and we're giving it to you for playing football, but you're not a football player or an employee. We got a super chat here from member Mark Bowman. I like the proposal that it will require players to play in bowl games. Yes. Part of getting paid is not an employee is signing a contract, which, employees don't sign contracts, guys. And part of those contractual obligations is playing in a bowl game.
I get a big pile of money from a company, and I'm not an employee of that company. So, I mean, it exists.
It happens. It doesn't happen to me, but it happens apparently.
Some people, that's how we do.
Thank you so much for the super chat, Mark. It's much appreciated. I will give you a let him cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
There you go. Thank you so much, Mark. It's much appreciated, sir. If
Hey,
anybody else wants to support the channel, you can just click the little cash icon in the chat, leave a super chat, become a member, gift a membership. Go ahead, you.
Mind if I share screen here, just go through an exercise about like how sports could be impacted. Okay, let's jump over here. Tell me if you're with me. Sportico?
Yeah, you got to add it to here. I'll add it to stage for you, brother.
All right, thank you much. All right, so Sportico right here. This is our favorite Iowa Hawkeyes for Immaculate here. This is
a good choice.
Yeah, for let's look at the revenues and the expenses for the Hawkeyes. This is for the most recent fiscal year in 2022-2023. Okay, so you can see here the sources of revenue for the athletic department. Football brings in the vast majority of revenue, $88 million in this year, and then men's basketball brought in $15 million. Women's basketball $4 million. All the other sports combined $8 million. Okay. So when we're talking about how, if you're starting to pay players in football and elsewhere, you really need to at least $30 million, right? That's what we're talking about, the House case, $30 million for a program like Iowa every year. Well, I'm simply just going to go down to the expenses area to see where we can reduce expenses by $30 million. So I'm just going to scroll down here and we can look at the operating expenses. These were the sales revenues of the athletic department. And football spent about $46 million, men's basketball, $11 million, women's basketball, a lot at $8 million. But check it out. Other sports, this is travel. This is a bunch of coaches' compensation. You can see to the right side of the screen. Iowa spent $35 million in 2022 to 2023 on other sports, non-revenue sports, and they made $8 million. Do you know where the money is going to come from? Here, this bucket right here. They're going to reduce and slash this other sports expense, and that's exactly where the money is going to come from in the House case or elsewhere. It's not going to be coming from football. Football expenses will increase. You're not going to pay your coaches less. This is all necessary expense right here. Men's basketball is not going to be carved. Certainly not women's basketball. He's had Caitlin Clark at Iowa. But really, it's going to come here, guys. And then this is just like a jumble of stuff. But I think that really it's pretty clear it's going to come from other sports. Just a real life like situation there, of how on the financial statements, just where you're going to cut costs for the House case. It's going to be in that area. Pretty sure of it. Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
So
If you like-
maybe if that's a little sobering, Georgia Tech is a big freaking Friday show.
I was actually going to point something out that you were indirectly showing of importance as well, and that was the importance of donations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the input that just does not get talked about enough in terms of what percentages is. People always think the value of a school is just in their media rights deal. And if you're looking at those donations, your donations were equivalent. And so where that comes into play is, say they were to join a super league and they were to be a bottom end team in that. And then Iowa was to go from, going from 10-2 last year, generally 8-4, to being a 4-8, 3-9 type of school. What do you think is going to happen to those donations?
Right. They'll be decreasing for sure.
They're going to decrease big time, like by half. Like when you go in, they're all in football and they're specific to it. Like these guys are saying, this is for football and that's it. And so if that goes down, they're going to be like, nah. So that's what people need to understand when we're talking like why Super League and these ideas. They some of the administrators are going to look at that and go, hell no. And you're thinking, oh, it's maybe, networks don't like them, which is true. They're also looking at it going, what happens if we do bad in this? You start to lose those donations and an athletic department can go under real quick.
Ticket sales too. Ticket sales make up a big piece of that. Football game ticket sales, especially for like the Big Ten stadiums like you guys see over there.
Yeah. It's not just media rights. That's important, but a school that's maybe doesn't have the biggest media rights thing, you can actually make it up. You can actually make it up with sales, ticket sales, merch sales, donations. So it's going to be interesting. And I kind of bring that up for a school like ASU. If they ever get their crap together, they could actually make as much as a Big Ten or an SEC department just based upon the size of their alumni and what they could bring in. So it'll be interesting to see how this starts to play out in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Rock and Rant is also here. He is a fan of the free market system. He thanks Michigan State for their transfer win. Timothy Green's here as well. Georgia Tech. Good evening, all college football fans.
Georgia Tech.
I might as well just leave the bottle cap off.
It's one of those Friday nights.
Yeah, it's one of them Friday nights. I used to throw the cap away, but that made somebody very upset when I would do that. So I don't do that anymore. Conundrum says players will sell the school only 5% of their NIL and retain 95% of their NIL. They're not that stupid anymore.
It comes down to the agreement and because this is all being done as one big controlled negotiation. And there's really one man at the center of it all, which we tend to think of like who's powerful right now. Is it Sankey, Petiti? No, it's that guy. That head lawyer in charge of 3 of the 4 lawsuits against the NCAA right now. There is nobody that knows more of what's going on than that man right there. So he did an interview with Dellinger, and he made an article about it, and I highly suggest reading that. There's some points in there that the guy gives that I've pretty much marked down is that's going to happen, because if there's anyone that know, it'd be him.
I also want to say hello to None. I'm not going to say that. I don't want to say it. I won't say it.
Bone, you're not going to say it. Go
I will
blue,
not eat them.
baby.
I will not eat them in a train. I will not eat them on a plane. I will not say that word. Known, noon, none.
Newton.
All right. Also, we have DP in the chat, our local Clemson fan. Speaking of
What's
Clemson,
up,
guys,
DP? Oh, yeah.
that's a perfect transition. Today, Clemson won in court and gets to see the unredacted gets a copy of the unredacted ESPN agreement under confidential terms. Clawing it away from ESPN, the Tigers have pounced. What do we think that is going to happen from this? We know they can't share it with Florida State. But my question is, do you think that there could be some stuff that Florida State gleans from their court filings that will help Florida State in their future arguments?
So Florida State can't view Clemson's copy of the agreement.
Correct.
Florida State still needs to go to North Carolina into
Correct.
Fort Knox, essentially, and go look at it without any cameras or anything else for a small, short period of time, right? Do you think that's actually going to work out like that, Moan? Or do you think there might just be an accidental leak here of the contract?
That's going to be very bad for Clemson if any of this leaks.
Yeah, everyone will know what the source was.
Yeah, it's not like it's going to be coming out of the ACC, so it's going to be somebody within Clemson's legal team leaking it if that's the case. But Florida State does have the AG is still pushing for that.
Mm-hmm.
They may get it.
And
if Florida gets it, if Florida State gets it, it goes public right away.
That's the big
laws.
difference. Is Clemson was willing to keep it sealed. They said so in their thing, and I think that's why that happened so quickly. Whereas Florida State, Florida saying sunshine laws, they can't keep it silent, so they have not gotten as quickly. But I made a post. Flugar showed the paperwork there, and I made a post and replied to it after looking through the paperwork, and it did have a bit of an angle. And it was talking about the Freedom of Information Act. And if anyone files to try to find this stuff out from Clemson, Clemson has to let the court know. And they have to let ACC, ESPN know. If ESPN, ACC has no problem with it, it can go out. But if they do, well, it was saying that if those people who want the FOIA request then go to a court to say this should be allowed, and that court, a duly appointed court, my guess is it has to be in South Carolina, but maybe not. If they have a ruling that says this FOIA request has to go through, then it says in the documents from this court that Clemson will be off the hook. So how much do you want to bet? I would bet a shit ton right now. Sorry, but I would bet a lot that some media guys are being contacted right now going, file that FOIA right now. Go file it. We need to get this started because we're going to get that denied. And then we're going to go take that into a court to try to get a court order to see that shit and make that public. My guess.
So you think there's a little jockeying by the media too to get this access to the agreement via FOIA request?
I mean, why wouldn't you? Like if you're like you're going to do that anyways, and it's in the paperwork from the court that Clemson is not held responsible if a proper court orders that to be allowed to be shown under the Freedom of Information Act. Now, I don't know how easily that happens or how quickly that could happen. Maybe not that quickly to where it doesn't matter. But from my quick look through, that was probably the best go around of this. Otherwise, probably not. They're probably not going to leak it. It's just they don't seem to want to make ESPN mad. I mean, I know we all kind of disagree on where Clemson is going to end up.
Sure.
I'm pretty strongly in the case of I think they're staying with ESPN and the SEC, so they're not going to try and piss them off. They're not going to leak it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the media can't try and go in there and FOIA that now that it's a public. Clemson is a public school.
What do you think Clemson wants out of this? Like, so is it simply just to look at and have a copy in their own office of the ESPN agreement? Or is it truly more different, viewpoint where they're trying to leak this or trying to get this in somebody else's hands to cause uncertainty and destruction? Like, really, what's the point of this? Is it necessary to have a copy of this, or is it just to create some potential havoc?
What do you think, Mon?
I think it's easier if they have a copy. They don't have to travel to North Carolina to schedule an appointment. You're not
Pretty
allowed
simple.
to make any. You're not allowed to make any copies of it. It's
They need a copy for filings, for official filings with the court. So maybe they just need it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it does them a good amount of benefit to actually have a copy. They can look at it. Their lawyers can look at it more in depth. They can pore over it. They can look for outs. They can define what is. So
Clemson is literally trying to say, like, this deal is, if we leave, the gore no longer holds. Like, they're saying, I mean, that's Clemson's argument. It's pretty straight, pretty brutal, but while doing that, they're protecting ESPN. So
they certainly are.
They're taking a very different route in that regard than Florida State, and I think that means something. Someone might think differently, but I don't think Clemson is going to be leaking this out, and I don't know what the angle is. I'd love to hear what some people have to say on that in terms of how that helps prove what the gore says, like how, whether or not that is in there. So maybe they're thinking that there's some language in this that is similar to like what we saw from the SEC. I don't know.
Does Clemson getting access to the ESPN agreement, does it change anything in the state of Florida? They have access, it's in their hands and everything, and yet in the state of Florida with the Attorney General and the Florida State team, they do not have access to that document yet. Does that put more leverage and put more momentum on them getting access to that soon? You think that's like another angle to this too, that actually helps Florida State, who will leak that out into the public?
Yeah, they could make the argument that, look, if a court doesn't have to respect another court across state lines. The court in Florida can say, we don't care what it says in South Carolina. We're in Florida. So we're going to do it our way. But once the Attorney General got involved, that's the end of it. I think she'll probably get that contract and it'll probably be made public. It's just going to take a little longer than Clemson is.
It's going to be so.
It's one hell of a statement if you're like, yeah, no problem. Here you go, Clemson. You can have the full non-redacted view. And then the state of Florida Attorney General comes to you and says, give me that. And you're like, nah. Like, that's kind of ballsy. Like, you just gave it to Clemson.
So who wins? Who's winning right now? Given this new information, seems like a good development for Clemson, of course, right? Like, who's winning this whole thing, this whole saga now? We're talking about a lot of different arenas that are being played in. We're talking about a lot of moving parts. But if 2 months ago we were going to look forward to this point in time, who is winning thus far and by how much in this whole lawsuit?
Oh, I can answer that.
Yes.
YouTube pundits, college sports radio, Greg Flugar, us, Renegade Report, Doug Rohan, lawyers, everybody but the university and the ACC is winning. Let's put it that way. We're loving the drama surrounding it, but it is what it is. But that's the truth. It's everybody but Florida
Sports
State
media.
ACC. Yeah.
Sports media is top. Like, you look at them, they're just like literally making realignment stories at times. Like once it gets quiet, they're like, this school is going to this one. Like, they just totally make stuff up. And like, that's when you know. Like, when they become us, they're just dying for content.
Is college football's popularity growing because of this realignment?
Yes.
Off-season.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
People might be like, I hate it. I'm never going to watch it again. Bullshit.
Yeah, I guess from like the highest level, maybe the sports winning, but certainly not the ACC, who's handing out probably millions per month, in legal fees. FSU's doing the same. Clemson's doing the same. They're all shelling out a bunch of money. But
yeah. Well, don't forget the other schools are doing that too. They just haven't filed yet. Every other school's got their lawyers on it too. So every school in the ACC is pretty much getting hit with lawyers' fees. So they're all losing. Everybody in the ACC is losing. Nobody's trying to leave the Big Ten or the SEC or the Big 12. People are trying to leave the ACC.
Right.
It's because they're wanted. I mean, the ones that were wanted were already taken. Really, at least the ones at the top of the list. And when you have a Florida State and a Clemson in the ACC, that's the top most wanted. So that's where they're at.
Let's talk more about the most wanted. Let's share some information here. Okay, so y'all, this is the ACC viewership share, and I know there was some pushback, on how reliable Nielsen-rated figures are. That's the information that we have, and that's the data that's available and everything. But here's viewership data based on percentage of how much viewership each team in the ACC brought to the table from 2015 through 2023, minus the COVID year. Let's look at value propositions here and how valuable Clemson and Florida State are compared to the other ACC schools. So this is just based on Nielsen-rated numbers. There's no realignment that's happened since this time frame in the ACC, unlike the Pac-12 that lost its two biggest brands and stuff. So really, it's pretty static, more static so than what's going on in the Big 12 and what happened in the Pac-12. So you can see here this pie graph here. It shows the percentage of all total viewership in the ACC, and Clemson accounted for roughly 18% of all the viewership in the ACC. This doesn't include Notre Dame because Notre Dame's not a full member. Notre Dame has the NBC contract, but the ACC we're seeing here based on eyeballs. Total eyeballs over essentially a decade-long period of time. And Clemson, of course, with that great run, 18% of all ACC eyeballs were on the Tigers over the last decade. According to Nielsen-rated information, this isn't made up or anything. This is just the straight facts. There's no adjustments, no manipulation in this. It just is what it is, guys. So FSU, 16.8% of all viewership in the ACC. So Clemson had a little bit touch more because of those runs that went on. That makes sense. Yeah. And then it goes to Miami and surprisingly Louisville, fourth in the ACC in viewership.
Not surprising at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of surprised me a little bit more. Virginia Tech, if you look at their
That's
viewership
the one
trends,
that stood out to me.
Yeah, and honestly, they had pretty dang good viewership before the pandemic. Since the pandemic, it's really been rough. North Carolina and North Carolina State, you're looking at about 6 to 5% of all viewership. So, really pretty immaterial when it comes down to that. It's really average as far as football viewership. This is just football viewership, folks. This isn't basketball viewership included too. But a Boston College is your laggard with 2.9% of all viewership in the ACC. So, as far as value, who's driving the value? Is it surprising to see that Clemson and Florida State and Miami are the three trying to pull out of this conference?
Well, it's interesting because it's the most successful brands too. The 2015 to 2023, Clemson won 2 national titles in that time. Florida State was competing then. Miami was trash, but I mean, Louisville was competing.
Clemson and Florida State. That's all it is Clemson and Florida State. Miami's more in line with Louisville and Virginia Tech. I mean, they're higher than them, but they're only 1.8% over Louisville and 3% over Virginia Tech, but they're 7 and 9% away from Clemson and Florida State. So that is Clemson and Florida State and then everyone else. So if anyone thinks that the ACC makes it with the same deal, the same everything, if Florida State and Clemson leave, just kind of look at this and just cut those little bits out and imagine it without them and say, are they going to get paid the same?
It's nuts, isn't it? It's nuts. So if you were looking, there's 14 schools here in all. And if you were going to look at what the average would be, and so the average of the mean would be, that'd be around 7.1%. I know nobody is kind of in that range. Clemson and Florida State just lift that so much, but 7.1% would be the true mean if you're looking at everything and took the average of it. So, so I mean, you're looking at Virginia Tech slightly below the mean, UNC, Pitt, all these brands and everything are really kind of below that bar, kind of set for the whole conference, whereas FSU and Clemson are shooting, almost 3 times more. And in Miami's been down. You had Miami, people watch Miami. people are watching Clemson. So these are your most valuable properties in realignment in the ACC. Outside of UNC and UNC, if we included basketball viewership and did a combo here, and I would have done that, but basketball viewership is actually only available for the 2023 season based on information out there. So UNC would get a huge lift, though, because they're number one in the nation, not just in the ACC. So UNC would get a massive lift in total viewership. But this is what driving realignment. This is the eyeballs everyone's talking about. This is what drives media contracts because it drives ad revenue for ESPN and everybody else. So really, Clemson and Florida State, that's why they want to get out of this place. They're like, hey, we bring so many more eyeballs compared to everybody else. This is over an extended period of time. It's not just a freaking year. So this is actually what's gone on for basically a decade, guys. And these teams are playing each other every year. There's been no change in realignment. So I think that they're actually pretty confident that no matter how you adjust or whatever, they're going to shake out real similar here. So wanted to show that visual really of why Clemson and FSU are so important and why they're trying to get this conference.
Very interesting, you that if you went by the viewership numbers, the 4 targets of the Big 12 would be Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, North Carolina State, and then Syracuse is the outlier. Duke is
bad.
way down.
Yeah.
But let's get some comments in here. We've got a bunch of comments started. We've got over 300 comments for the night so far, guys.
You want to leave this up? Or we
can leave it up. We can leave it up. I think it's a great little pie chart. I love pie charts. Buckshot Kid, how long till we see a player strike if they make students employees?
Ooh.
We've seen player strikes when they aren't even employees. So I think, I don't know, I'd probably measure that in months.
Yeah, definitely measured in months. Hope it happens before a Utah football game, though. I'm going to get an easy forfeit win. Maybe Michigan players will strike before the Ohio State game, Moan, for you.
Probably be I don't want to make a joke. Someone might think about it. Say it might be like the rowing team that does it or something.
Maybe Iowa's defense strikes until Iowa gets an offense.
We're on strike until the offense shows up.
That's right.
Carrying this damn team.
Timothy Green, love the outfit, Moan, especially the pipe. Very cool. I've got another pipe. It's made of glass, but YouTube has restrictions.
No.
Rock Chalk. Where's your 4-legged friend, Immaculate?
We got a new couch, and they seem to love it. So they don't come visit as much anymore.
Scott Schrader. Hey, Immaculate, I heard Iowa made a general booty call today.
That's correct. They got a new offense they've created. I don't know if you guys heard about it.
No.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's supposed to be like the quiet offense. It's going to be called the silent but deadly offense.
Silent but deadly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Booty's leading it.
Under General Booty.
That's not going to go well with that last name. That's just nothing's going to go well.
Do you know what the name of the Iowa's top wide receiver is on the team right now?
No.
His last name is Brown. It's Caleb Brown. So
Brown Booty.
The Brown Booty connection.
The wheels are turning over there. I see it.
The jokes with this guy, man.
Yeah.
But this guy, I mean, he's serious. Like, he's from Allen, Texas. I don't know if you know anything about Allen. I was showing Moen their stadium. Yeah, their high school stadium is better than quite a few colleges. And so, if a kid coming from there who went to Oklahoma, it's got to have something to him. So I'm hopeful that they are able to get this guy.
Too bad Jake Butt stopped playing.
Oh, man,
the booty butt connection would have been for real.
Could have transferred to Iowa and booty to the butt.
Booty.
Joaquin Morales, Immaculate. Hey now. Michael Crow's trying to add men's and women's pickleball to ASU sports.
Is he? No.
No, I would not be surprised. Pickleball is becoming crazy popular. Maybe it's just a thing down here, but
it's everywhere.
It's taken off. So I would not be surprised. We're on the cutting edge here at ASU. We're starting a pickleball team. We're going to play ourselves. That would be exactly what he would do.
Why don't we just start a dodgeball league?
Oh,
Illini Ted, if Iowa and even lower tier P2 schools are going to have that big of a hit with their income, how is this going to impact schools not in the Power 2 who are desperately trying to keep up with them?
it's a good question. We kind of hit upon that. I don't know if you remember. It was there's room for variance. At least that's what we're being presented with so far. We'll see if that makes it into the final draft, where it looks like it's kind of a percentage of your total media intake. So some of the schools that maybe bring in less from media are actually going to be able to spend less going out in this regard. So there should be some balancing to it. And if you're one of the schools down there brings in less, but you still want to pay the kids the same as what some other schools are, you can opt into moving up to the cap. But there's some variance in this, so we'll see how it plays out. But it looks like it's not going to be too punishing, hopefully.
Rock and Rant, a moderator and a member. Along those same lines, Immaculate, why hasn't anyone filed a FOIA request in the state of Florida to get the UF agreement for the SEC, including the media rights to compare?
Maybe someone should. General rule is people don't rock the boat if they're not unhappy. So generally people aren't going to go looking into Florida because who connected to Florida is unhappy with what Florida's got going on, other than their coach and their team. But, the overall situation, maybe someone should. I don't know if that would help. Maybe someone already has, and it wasn't much help, so it just didn't get talked about. Don't know, but it's a good question.
Rock and Rant again. Do you know how many disgruntled former ESPN legal types have seen it? Many. Great time to mask your leak. That's my conspiracy theory.
That's
so
right.
He thinks the disgruntled lawyer is going to leak it. Dan Miter, to me, this cash proposal is not going to answer all the players' needs. Collective bargaining and employee status are in play within 5 years. Unfortunately, I think this deal, if Congress approves it, it lasts for 10 years. So it basically kicks the can down the road for 10 years, more or less, if Congress approves it. So,
my goodness.
Yeah, I still think that they definitely need to get Congress to approve. It's just they have to get 100% agreement before I think Congress will approve anything.
Rock Chalk, did General Booty commit to another school yet? I wonder who's on the rear end of that list. Thank you.
Nicely done, sir.
Lino Ted, too bad General Booty will never have a chance to throw past to Jake Butt. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. You know what? Jake Butt never beat Ohio State. The butt never beat the nut.
That's just because he was
really?
missing his
Is that what
booty.
you guys said, huh?
Go Black 45. Good to see you, Go Black. They're looking to see if the language in the agreement that led to a quid pro quo between the ACC and ESPN about getting the ACC network in the extension.
Gotcha.
Very good.
All right. Good stuff.
Daniel Kopcha, Rohan definitely winning, and he talks like you're an adult. Danielle Kelly, too. Yeah. Doug Rohan's a great guy. We had him on here. He partied with us one Friday. It was awesome. Yeah.
Daniel's fun, too. I just think that she's probably a little busy these days with all the weather stuff going on. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, she's definitely a good one to ask stuff to as well. She's quite fiery and will let you know exactly what she's thinking, and she will have some very good insight in order to back that up, too.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Morgan from Morgantown, I assume. Best form of reality TV, realignment talk.
Cheers.
It's addicting.
Georgia Tech.
It's no Vanderpump Rules or whatever the hell that is that Nate watches, but
he's probably binging that right now.
Probably traveling to see the location. Mark Bowman, according to 24/7 Sports and General Booty himself, Iowa has contacted him. Iowa has made a booty call, ladies and gentlemen. Iowa has made a booty call.
Before anyone was talking about this, there was some Iowa Twitter X posters who were saying that Iowa and them are talking. So I just kind of blew it off because was it 247 or someone reported like there was a couple of smaller Louisiana schools that are talking with them. It was all just kind of smaller G5. So I figured, okay, there's nothing to it. Then the story just came out. So it's actually kind of been talked about even longer than just coming out today.
Iowa is the booty whisperer, ladies and gentlemen. Terry Kane, Miami is never trash, Mr. Big Ten. We're just down right now. You've been down for 2 decades. All right. You had one good season under Mark Richt. You told him, you pushed him out the door and brought in Manny Diaz, who killed your team. So
Do you think
until you at least win the ACC, you're trash. Okay. You never won the ACC.
Miami seems like it is a TV like multiplier, though. When Miami is good, viewership is real good. In other words, like they've got a different multiplier effect based on its brand. And so even over the last decade, Miami's numbers are still third best in the ACC. And if they really get on a hot streak, I mean, you could see that lift so much. That's why Fox wants them. You know, they're very similar. I think they're very similar to Oregon. And Oregon's been up.
Think how good Louisville's been over this period. Not just like the entire time, but in spurts, they've been really good. Still couldn't pass Miami. And those were games that they were playing that actually mattered for the national chase, so to speak. But
Lamar Jackson, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Miami still. I mean, Miami is a brand that, funny enough, I think is more valued everywhere else in the country besides Miami. Like, they don't get their home crowd at all. But everyone else around the country recognizes it. I would love to see Miami go up and play Iowa at some point in time. I'd love to see Miami come play ASU. I don't know. It's just one of those things where you just kind of want to see the brand come around. I don't know. I guess it's just from the old times and who they were and how notorious they were. But the brand still seems to persist.
Oh,
I tell you, hate watchers. People hate the U.
Hey, they're watching.
And because they hate them, they watch them to see them lose.
That works.
I watched last year when they should have taken a knee.
You wonder if Miami one day just builds a really small stadium whenever they get that done, just so they can almost sell out every game. Like if the issue is just the perception of not selling out games, then why don't you hedge against that and just build a super small stadium without like a huge one, right?
Like Northwestern?
Yeah, like Northwestern, exactly.
Building like almost $1 million or $1 billion stadium that's only like 37,000.
Yeah, make it 38,000. And then sell that out or have good attendance, right? And then it solves a lot of the problems. I think Miami's perception problem is really just the stadium itself. Everyone knocks that because it's so unattended. And we all know the reasons for that. It's way far away from the campus and everything else. And it's a pro stadium. It's not their own. But man, if they could ever get that figured out and stuff, I think it would cure a lot of their national perception problems.
They have a big problem because the university is in neighborhoods of people who don't care. They don't. And so they had a park that was not even right next to it, but just a few minutes up that they were looking to try to turn into this. And everyone said no. I mean, they lost the public vote. Wow. So that's why I say they do not have local support to do this. And it's the damnedest thing because if they did, that would be one of the biggest brands in the country. I do. I think if they had a quality stadium at home, right there locally, I think that it would be something for locals to like, but the locals aren't used to it, so they don't want it there. It is what it is. But yeah, it's a funny brand. I actually think they have more value on the road than they do at home.
No doubt.
Dan Miter, Immaculate. Who are Iowa's QBs? Every time I look at Google, another one transfers out.
Well, the last one that transferred out, we were very happy about. And unfortunately, he took all the snaps. So the next guy who's supposed to be after him, he's still very raw. Cade, we'll see how he does. If he's healthy, I think he's pretty good. And we'll see what he can do with the new offense. Booty comes in, he's probably going to be challenging for that starting role. I don't know how good he is. I don't know whether the judge if he's better, but he seems to have pretty good stock. So I'd say it's probably going to be, if Booty comes in, it'll be probably his spot. I think Cade might still be hurt. We'll see.
It'll be the
we
Booty
got
spot.
three. We got like 3 or 4 maybe.
If you're Booty's parents, like, what's the best name to name your child? There's not a lot of good options. Like, is General Booty like a solid name if you have the last name Booty? Like, what other
I think he's got a brother name. He's got a brother named Major.
That's worse.
And the daughter's name is Private Booty.
Shut up. No, you're so bad, Moan.
I mean, if you call your kid General, you've probably got some high expectations for him, right? You better try and set that kid up for success. Because if your name is General and you've just done nothing, that sucks. But I mean, born and raised in, there in Allen, Texas, and named General Booty, he became the high school quarterback. It's probably a pretty good story. If he signs with Iowa, I'm going to look into it a little bit more.
The name of that movie was Varsity Blues.
That's it.
It was Varsity Blues.
That's it.
Just remembered it. Sorry, guys. That was a pre-show discussion. We couldn't remember the name of that.
That's what I was comparing this kid to. It's like, he reminds me of like Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues. Cleveland Rocks, Immaculate or Ute. Do you have a chart to show everyone how the college football playoffs work next season? I'm still confused. Thank you, Cleveland Rocks, for correctly assuming I would not have a chart.
I was kind of hoping Ute did, but we can. Jeez, yeah. It. I don't know. Do you want me to try and say it real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. There are 4 games in the first round with 8 teams playing, and 4 teams will have a bye because there's 12 teams total. In the first round, they're not actually connected to bowl games. They're going to be home games at the highest ranked team in the matchup. So we are now going to have home games in the college football playoff. That's the first round. The winners of that go into the next round. You bring in the other 4, and once again, you have a round of 8 teams, 4 games. Those are now bowl games. So those are going to be your neutral site games with the bowl atmosphere and the bowl committees who put on all the stuff that leads up to them. Then from there, you get down to your round of 4. So now you're going to have 2 games, your semifinal. This is where you're used to having it end, but then you get that extra week now where you have your championship game. So you go from a week where you have 12 teams to a week when you have 8 teams to a week with 4 teams, 2 than 1. Good Lord. But yeah, so it's added an extra week to the process. And it's going to be interesting to see it play out because a lot of different schools are going to have to start preparing during the season to host these. And they may not even end up hosting one because they may not even make it. Because this isn't something you can just come around at the end and, you got to have to plan around it. Make sure there's no conflicts, and then nothing else going on campus that's also going to take up the parking. Like there's a lot of that goes into this where that first week might end up being a massive headache for a lot of people. We'll see how everyone feels about this after the first year. I mean, as fans, this is freaking great. But that first week with those home games and having to prepare for them, that might create a lot of headaches for these administrators. We'll see.
Rock and Ran, as I said earlier, better chance Flugar eats meat with cheese than Congress actually acts on this.
Dude, I set that one up for you, Moen.
Oh!
There it is.
I don't think Greg agrees with that.
I saw the comment. I'm like, I know what I'm going to get out of Moen with this one.
I can't believe he doesn't like Juicy Lucy's, guys. Have you ever had a Juicy Lucy? How good those things are?
Yeah, but I was back in high school and I got penicillin shot for it.
No, you did not.
That joke went over Ute's head, I think. But no, I've had one in Wisconsin before. I'm not a fan. Give me a Culver's butter burger with cheese. Much better.
Straight out of Wisconsin.
That's right.
You ever had a Culver's?
Oh, yeah.
You guys have Culver's out there?
We have Culver's down here. Phoenix is weird. We have stuff from everywhere because people come from everywhere.
Right.
Here. So we have like Chicago, like pizza pie chains that are here. We have Geno's. Like, it's weird. Just stuff comes here.
We've got Culver's out here.
Yeah,
Nice.
Culver's is pretty wide.
Never been, but I will go now.
Oh, it's
Oh,
pretty
it's
good.
fantastic. Get a
It's pretty
butter
good.
burger.
Do you have Freddy's?
Freddy's. Maybe.
It's not the same, but in the ballpark.
Yeah. Just I'm a fat guy. Bring up food and I'll talk about food all day. Go black if KU leaves the Big 12. How bad does that devalue the conference?
Equivalent of North Carolina leaving the ACC.
Yeah, that's kind of a. I don't know. That's a wild card because KU is just in the process of proving themselves right now. So we don't really know if like Fox and ESPN are valuing them as like projected future value because it's probably not based off of past value. So I don't know where they're really valued at. I would say in terms of potential, it'd be huge, but I don't know in terms of the number crunchers how much value they're giving them.
Football viewership is very low for KU. Of course, they've had the down program for a long time outside of the last 2 years. Basketball viewership is in the 5 to 10 range nationally. So it's not like UNC viewership for KU basketball, but it's very good. Borderline elite. Those two things blended together kind of offset each other. So I don't know. Yeah, I think that honestly, guys, if UNC leaves the ACC, I don't think that does the hit to the media contract like Clemson or Florida State or Miami, as we've seen with the illustration already. UNC leaving the ACC hurts from the president's perspective. It's strategic. It's in the state of North Carolina. It's prestigious, right? But from a media rights point of view, sure, it actually does the damage like some of the other schools do. We're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
KU's in that same boat.
Yeah.
It's not
kinda,
Oklahoma, Texas, but
it's kind of hard. Like, it's going to hurt, but how much? I don't know. It depends, who do they replace with? Like, don't know.
Got a super chat here from Donnie McNerney, an Ohio State fan. I would love to have Miami and Florida State in the Big Ten, being a small part to keep the lights on, keep the big freaking Friday show rolling. Thank you so
Appreciate
much,
that.
sir.
Let them cook.
Winner.
It's a winner. Or I could give him the Greg Flugar.
Oh.
That's a mind warp right there, Mo.
First time I heard that, I'm like, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah. Sorry, Greg, but that's in the rotation now, brother. Appreciate all your support, Donnie. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on here. Much appreciated, sir. I, too, am an Ohio State fan, and I would like Miami and Florida State in the Big Ten. But you're not going to convince me that Miami's a good team until they actually do something. Pull something off with some consistency.
Yeah. If I'm just picking as an Iowa fan, I'm picking Florida State, Miami, like 100%.
Yeah.
But when I do my analysis stuff, I try not to throw that in there. But as a fan, that's absolutely the combination.
As a fan for the rivalries, Nebraska, Penn
Like I said,
State,
you want Miami
Ohio
to come
State.
play. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to see Miami come. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. Clemson's the better program. I should want to see them more, but I don't.
Clemson doesn't have any natural rivals in the Big Ten. Like their
No,
only
it doesn't have
rivalry
any
would be
history.
like Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio
Miami
State
does
is the
have
only one they
history.
have.
Welcome to realignment, guys. Welcome to realignment. You lose history, rivalries. You lose a lot. Sometimes you gain them back. In Utah's case, with BYU, but Utah doesn't have any history with anybody outside of the Arizonas and Colorados.
Oh, trust me, you've got history. You got history.
The big voices. The big voices in the Big Ten are like, Penn State, got history. Ohio State, got history. Michigan, they probably want Miami coming to town. If those three were all to say Miami and Miami wants to come, that's the pick. That's what it's going to be. And I think that's the brand that Fox would probably rather try to take advantage of, and NBC and CBS. And that's weird because Clemson is 100% one of the best programs the past decade. But we're talking about brand power here and long haul. This is going to be a permanent choice. So when you look at that graphic and the way Miami's been, and they're still third. Like it's pretty hard to argue against.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say this: the way Utah fans have been acting, I think they have history with every team in the Big 12. I think every team in the Big 12 has that one circled. In
They want
red.
to crack.
You guys have the
News.
target on your back this year. Right?
Yes,
no
you have-
doubt about it. You're going to hear a lot of boos when you're coming into places.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Every
Be the
conference
villain.
needs a bad man. Hey, it looks like the villain on the surface, but it's really the hero.
Almighty Finn says Miami's only problem is they're missing the right coach. They need Butch Davis back.
Dude, Miami has had great recruiting, like great. Like it's just if they could put it together. That's a strong team, man. Like they could 1 year it could just happen. Like they figured it out. Like it could be this year. That's why everyone picks them every year, and they're like Miami because it makes all the predictors look bad.
Miami's going to be dang good this year, though.
That's what everyone says every year because they got the guys,
This
and then
team,
they.
this team is.
I
a
know
little bit
that's
different.
what everyone says.
Cam
every year.
Ward is a star, guys. Cam
Hey,
Ward is
not the
very,
first
very
star that they've
talented.
had there.
Damian Martinez, just
I
those
get it.
two.
I get it, and that's what I'm saying. This might be the year, but it's Miami. It's Mario Cristobal.
Can't take a knee.
I have to see it to believe it with them.
You know what team he lost to by not taking a knee, don't you?
Ohio State with
But
them.
imagine it's Ohio State.
Georgia Tech.
Cheers. Nice.
Smooth. That's
Nice,
definitely
Mo.
with the Greg right there.
Oh,
Scott Schrader, it would be awesome to see Miami come play Nebraska and Lincoln and renew those Orange Bowl days. Yeah.
Here's another
So,
one.
I mean, natural rivalry, Nebraska and Miami.
I want
Miami,
to
Notre
see
Dame.
Miami come to Iowa, and when they start to do the wave, I want to see Miami truly show that they're the villains and just turn their back, and then everyone just lights up on them. You're the worst, and I'm going to be sitting there going, "Well done."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done.
That's awful. Anybody who turns their back on the wave is like the biggest villain in the history of college
Who
sports.
did that? Yeah, we won't go into that. But seriously, I mean, just something like that. Like just to have a real villain in the conference now that the conference is becoming something new. Like now is the time to create like the new future roles in this conference. So if I was to pick, it would be Florida State and Miami for sure.
Doc Gibbs brings up a great point. Miami is a relatively small private school. Isn't that counter to Big Ten SEC desires for large public universities?
It's not a bad point. It's just Miami, from the Big Ten perspective, has a very good medical school, and they're connected to the Miami University system, Miami University Hospital system. Sorry, which their research numbers are very good. Also, Miami is one of these growing towns, it's becoming a tech hub. So you're not wrong. in
They're
terms of what-
Northwestern without all the area.
Yeah, it's like you're not wrong. I don't want to say that it sounds like you're wrong. It's just the positives probably outweigh the negatives.
the brand trumps the private school
huge.
status.
It's huge.
And
And
you know who else is a private school? Notre Dame.
Notre
It
Dame.
doesn't do a lot of
Mhm.
research, like on R&D expenditures, like we've looked at. So
Miami's
I mean,
like double
it's-
them, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really brand. You're adding brands. Like I think that the school types, the secondary thing, is really value maximization, brand.
Yeah. Rock and Rant. Miami is a pro town. Win and it sells, period. Everything else being said, it's not the issue. Okay, then go out there and win. Prove us
Winner.
wrong. Prove us wrong. Be a winner.
Winner.
I love Sebastian, guys. I'll be honest though, Sebastian the Hurricane, one of the best mascots in the nation, right there. Look at that. Got a Rock and Rant's logo right there. Sebastian in the pipe too. He's got that pipe, just like
Yeah.
Moan.
His pipe
good
isn't
one.
any good. He's got that corn cob pipe. He ain't got that Mullen pipe.
Doesn't have that glass pipe like Moan does.
I hate that mascot when he grabbed him. Terrible mascot. OPD Don, how about my booty, big booty, no booty, your booty? Booty, booty, booty.
There's going to be so many jokes about that when it happens.
It's so easy. Low hanging.
How about
I mean,
booty?
the easy one is the Iowa offense is just so booty.
Yeah,
They
got a
booty,
they got a booty issue at Iowa. Let's be
Yes.
honest.
The jokes will write themselves. It will be never ending and constant and always. Say,
Dixon
you know,
booty.
To master with Dixon booty.
it does. It's like doesn't even have anything to do with the subject yet. We know exactly what he's talking about. That's what it's going to be constantly. If Booty goes to Iowa as a starting,
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
think about it. The starting quarterback for Iowa, the team with the offense that had the absolute lowest ranked offense last year. Like, it's almost like, yeah, we're living in a script. Like,
Listen,
really?
the NIL
Really
deals
gonna
this
happen?
kid's gonna the NIL deals this kid's gonna get
Dude, seriously.
are gonna be huge. Just off of the name.
They're going to be really niche. So for that NIL deal for Booty. Oh, Mr. Monkey, what's going
Better
on?
call booty.
Monkey.
Mr. Monkey says, hello, Pete. Hello, Mr. Monkey says, I got some good news for you. There's going to be some more Big 12 talk on the channel.
There you go.
We're all going to start doing predictions coming up for who we think are going to win it all this year. Next Friday, we're starting with the Big 12. Booty call the Kardashian kid. It's all good.
The jokes will
They
be
should.
never ending. I can't wait for it. I'm signed up for
Kim
it.
Kardashian booty.
Gotta say that Dixon Booty's got to be one of the worst iterations, though, for sure. Thank goodness the guy's not named Dixon Booty.
That would.
There used to be a
we
NASCAR
probably have to have him
driver.
change his name.
The worst name I ever heard, there was a NASCAR driver called Dick Trickle. Boy, if your name was Dick Trickle, you're never getting laid.
Luckily, he wasn't that good, so his name didn't get said that much.
Really?
No,
His name was
serious.
Dick Trickle. Yes.
Serious. There was a.
Why
And
wouldn't
I
you
don't
go
even
by
know that much about
Richard?
racing, but I remember that name because it stood out so
Dick
much.
Trickle.
Dick Trickle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dick Trickle, NASCAR racer. I would go by Richard if that was the case. I'd be, R Trickle. But, Mr. Monkey says KU changing conferences would be seismic shift in basketball. Yes, it would.
It would be. Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah. I mean,
General Booty already has an NIL deal with an underwear company.
of course he does. I mean, that should be the name of an underwear company. Are you kidding me? General Booty.
General Booty. It's actually really good. Immaculate. Seriously.
You should get a deal with Preparation H to protect your booty. That's what you should get.
Yeah, we're going to see so much of that guy in the future. He's going to be in his underwear in commercials.
I love this comment from Daniel Gygax. Trickle won over 1,000 dirt track races. He was awful on pavement. So Dick Trickle was good in the dirt, but Dick Trickle wasn't good on the road.
Daniel did not go by Dick Trickle.
Daniel really knows a lot about the Dick Trickle.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe playing in the dirt led to the Dick Trickle. Who knows?
Oh, man. You see where we go when Bomber's on the show, guys?
Right.
He's watching right now on a road, probably having a fit. Like, what are these guys doing?
He's going to have to up the tide this week for us. How come Nebraska suffered so long and refused to remove Scott Frost? Hometown kid.
Yep.
Local boy makes good. That's pretty much it. Rock and Ran, I would love to say that M word. How about sending Nebraska back to the Big 12?
Ooh, hey, we'll take Nebraska in the Big 12. We'll take you too, Miami.
I think that would be one hell of a grab.
I'd be all for sending Michigan there. Friends call me Sean. Almighty FSU rivals will be Penn State, Nebraska, and whoever comes with. If Nebraska's card is filled, Maryland. I think definitely probably Penn State and Florida State. That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
To me. Miami and Nebraska,
Nebraska
have to be,
though.
Yeah, but Miami and Nebraska have to be protected rivals, assuming Notre Dame isn't coming.
Because we'd probably want to push Nebraska down there to try to help that brand. Because as much as I hate saying it, we want Nebraska to be good as a brand. And then we want to beat them. But Nebraska being shit just sucks. Like, they need to get better. And having them go down to Miami every other year would definitely help.
NBA playoffs boring, MLB boring, college football season can't come soon enough.
So right.
I don't even watch the NBA. It's been terrible.
That's what I do when I think about college football. I do this.
There's college football season, and then there's realignment season. That's
yes.
college.
Still...
That's our sports side.
OPD Don says, "Hammer that booty."
Hammer that booty.
Hey, be nice. That's our quarterback.
Illini Ted reminds us the Cubs had a pitcher in the 70s named Dick Pole.
I need to know. Did you look that up, or did you just know that?
Listen, with a name like that, you don't forget. I don't understand why you wouldn't go by Richard, but I guess Richard Pole probably isn't any better.
I mean, he probably does, but he's just shortened it to Dick Pole.
Rock and Ran, I think this might be the most drunk the chat has been on a show that I've personally watched. Go back and watch the Doug Rohan Friday show. I think everybody was hammered, including Doug. So, or go back and watch our drinking show from before Christmas, because I was absolutely blackout. So,
he doesn't remember it at all.
Don't shake Dick Trickle more than twice.
Oh boy.
Booty got back pain reliever by Advil. There you go.
There you go. There's one of them.
Dirty Dick Trickle. There you go.
Dirty Dick Trickle. Dick Pole, Dick Trickle.
Cleveland rocks. Louisville, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech to the Big 12. That would be awesome. Who's number 4?
Ooh, yeah. Who is the 4th right there?
Pitt.
Yeah, Pitt Panthers.
Detroit Lions had a player back in the day named Harry Cologne. I'm sure it was pronounced Cologne as in Latin American cologne, but if it was Harry Colon, I'd hate to be his proctologist.
Yeah, that was a little painful.
Illini Ted, I knew that. I had his baseball card. So he had the collectible from Dick Pole.
I mean, that's probably a pretty valuable baseball card.
Yes.
Almighty Finn, Nebraska has just as much history with FSU as they do with Miami. I don't disagree with you, but I think Penn State lines up better with Florida State. And I think Miami lines up better with Nebraska as a permanent rival.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they won't play, but I just think those are better permanent rivals.
They'll probably work some type of story with Penn State and Florida State that they're the origin of realignment comes full circle back into the Big Ten, because those were the very first 2 realignment, big moves.
And the first 2 big independent schools.
They started it, and now we finish it. They'll make up some cheesy ass story coming out of Wisconsin.
Mr. Ed Wainer, if Notre Dame were to join the SEC, Michigan could also join and all be contiguous. Moan, would you let Michigan go to the SEC with Notre Dame? Yeah, you guys think Michigan would go to the SEC? Yeah. Good luck.
Never
happened.
Ohio State would go to the SEC before Michigan would.
Yes. Michigan's arrogance is...
Michigan wants nothing to do with that.
Yeah, that's their arrogance. So
oh my God, dude, seriously. Like, Michigan is, think Virginia, but with a good Michigan, football program and, big stadium that gets filled. But
so Michigan is like that team in the Big Ten?
They're elitists.
That team, like the snobby team in the Big Ten?
Yes.
It's Michigan?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's not even close.
You sure it's not Ohio State?
Nope.
No, Ohio State's like your blue collar. We're going to come beat your ass if you say the wrong thing during the game type of crew. Whereas Michigan can have 120,000 people in the stands, and it'll be like a low roar, like just like the quietest 120,000 people you'll ever have in your life. And if you get too loud, you might have a few of them give you an evil eye.
There's two types of Michigan fans. There's Michigan fans who went to Michigan, and then there's what we call Walmart Wolverines. Walmart Wolverines are
now they can be loud, and they can be like fans, but a lot of your alumni It's very, very kind of almost private school-esque type of view. That's why when all this happened, they all kind of circled the wagons and were like, they didn't care. Like, world against us. I mean, it's just kind of just their. You'll know if you ever join the Big Ten and you come across them. It's just it's a different thing. There really isn't anyone else like that in the Big Ten.
Arrogance by Michigan. Dan Miter. I have Nebraska, Iowa State, Virginia Tech, and Ole Miss as my sleeper teams in the P4. Who are your sleepers in the P4 conferences? Go first, Rod. You.
As far as title contenders or playoff contenders this year,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're going with this one rather than the realignment candidates. So I think that Oregon, if you want to call them a sleeper for the Big Ten, I know that we've talked about them quite a bit. I think they're going to be right there, and I think Wisconsin, I like those two this year into the future too. It's because I like Fickle, guys. Fickle's a good coach and everything. And the Big 12, got the Utes. I'm heavy on the Utes, of course. I've got the bias and everything over here, but K-State's going to be really good offensively. KU's going to be solid. I think that West Virginia is getting dunked on for no reason. I think West Virginia is going to be solid too. So I'll say it's still K-State and Utah favorites in the Big 12. And the SEC, Alabama's going to fall off a cliff, I think. I think they're going to have a really marginal season. Ole Miss is going to be solid, real solid. And Georgia, Ole Miss and Georgia right there. So, yeah, there's.
He's looking for sleeper picks.
Sleeper picks. In the Big 12, the sleeper pick would be. I mean, would you call Oklahoma State a sleeper pick? I mean, some of them as favorite.
Oh, sure.
They're not getting much. They're not getting much attention. Certainly. Yeah. I think in the Big 10, Wisconsin again. That's a sleeper team for you. In the SEC, sleeper team would be Oklahoma.
Okay.
Well, first one I'm picking is Iowa. Picking Nebraska or Wisconsin over Iowa at this point in time, to me, it's par for the course, but I think Iowa is going to be both of them. From the ACC, I'm going to contradict myself. I'm going to say Miami as a sleeper. Ole Miss for sure from the SEC. From the Big 12, who would be kind of the sleeper to come out? I don't know. Can we call Utah a sleeper?
No. Utah's a favorite.
Then I'm probably going to go with Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Yeah. Oklahoma State's going to be very good.
With that, with Ollie, and I think Oklahoma State coming out of there. I don't know I wouldn't consider Oregon to be a sleeper, as you're saying, but they're at that kind of that point. I don't know. I guess that's probably enough.
I would take Big Ten, Wisconsin or Iowa. I think Iowa's got lofty expectations because of what they did last year. So I'm going to say Wisconsin's more of a sleeper.
Gotcha.
Big 12, I take Kansas. I think Kansas is my dark horse to make it into the college football playoff.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, I do. SEC, I'm going to say Tennessee bounces back, wins big. ACC, I like North Carolina State to come roaring in there and upset some people.
Who's the quarterback in North Carolina State?
I have no idea.
Is that Dick Pole?
No, not Dick Pole. Dick Pole was a pitcher for the Cubs in the 70s. Maybe it was his son, Dick Pole Jr.
So dumb.
Mr. Monkey says Harry Balzac.
Oh, man.
Go Black 45. If you could change the name of the Big 12, what would you all change it to?
What do you think, Immaculate?
That's actually tough because you'd have to come up with something that's so catchy that it makes up for all of the brand power that the name of the Big 12 currently has. I don't know. Maybe we'll think on it and we'll come back to you on that one. At least I'll try to. But I don't know. You have a hard time overcoming like the recognition of the name Big 12, and that's why the Big 10 is still the Big 10 when it's like 18.
Big 20. The Big 20. That's where we're going to end up. 20 teams make it the Big 20.
I think you just keep the name Big 12. Just me.
It's probably the case.
Scott Schrader, Walmart Wolverines wearing their Jim Harbaugh khaki pants. There you go. Keep chopping CFB sleeper Rutgers. Man, I
That
like
was Mullins
Rutgers.
last year.
I like Rutgers, but I don't like them to make the playoff.
Making the call. That is one hell of a call, man. That's
I like
good.
Rutgers, though. Tony Lawson, Dick Trickle is the uncle of Luke Fickle. Maybe. That's quite a pickle if Dick Trickle is the uncle of Luke Fickle.
You know, I saw
Very
Luke doing
good.
an interview, and he looks like he's lost weight. And my first thought was, how the hell is he losing weight in Wisconsin? That is pretty remarkable. We might have to figure out what his diet is, because losing weight in Wisconsin is one of the hardest things to do.
Rock and Rant says Michigan wouldn't take a pay cut. Go to the SEC. Friends call me Sean. Ole Miss is his sleeper national champion.
No doubt.
Not a terrible pick.
They're going to be good, but they've had some movement with the portal. They've had to do replacing, so you just kind of wonder, did the culture take a hit, or is it just fine? I mean, with Lane Kiffin, I tend to think it's just fine. I know people don't like him, but I personally think he's the best coach in the country. So I think they'll be fine. I think he's got something to prove, and I think he's looking to take over Alabama in a couple years after they get rid of the current guys. So
They get rid of the board, yeah.
yeah,
So,
'cause he doesn't want to follow the goat, but he doesn't mind following the guy who followed the goat.
Conundrum, his sleeper is Kansas.
It's a good one.
It's like my sleeper. Scott Schrader brings up a great sleeper in the Big 12, UCF.
Mhm.
They've been
Absolutely.
killing it in the portal.
That's the number one team that needs to figure out what the hell they're going to do with their stadium.
If you guys were going a little bit off topic here, if you were going to make like, say, just not off intuition or like guess or feel or anything, like if you were going to create a system to predict like a winning team in a conference or a national championship, do you guys think that your quarterback play, like the quality of your quarterback, would be like number one essential? Number two, the quality of your coaching staff. And number three, just your overall talent composite. Do you think those three factors would tell you everything you need to know?
I would add
Quarterback quality.
quality of offensive line. I
Really?
think your lines are where, look at what Michigan did last year. Offensive and defensive lines. That won them the championship. J.J. McCarthy was a middling quarterback.
Yeah, it's true. And that got him in the first round as
Yeah.
quarterback. And he's not that good. I mean, he's okay, but they clearly didn't trust him. And you're right. I mean, from an Iowa guy, I'm going to agree with him 100%. That building up your line, you can have mediocre everything else. If you have a great line, you're going to be competitive every time. You may not win, but if you can control the line, that's generally where you want to be. But these days, when you're really wanting to point to something specific, I do think the coach is a big deal.
College, absolutely.
Because that's how you get the line. The line is a product of that. So I would put that as probably number one. And as we get forward here with these new pricings and new everything that's put out, you're not going to see coaches get fired as quickly and as easy as they are right now. Some of these payouts that they have to pay to these guys to get rid of them, they're not going to be able to afford this. So,
Wonder if you created something that had like coach number one, like you do a rank of coaches. Number two, you've got quarterbacks, how good your quarterback is, your line play, then also factor in like the overall recruiting rankings. I bet you get real close to, like legit championship contenders. Just as an aside.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. You could be right.
Okay. We're going to start wrapping it up here, folks, so I'm just going to get these questions here. Got anything else that you want answered? It would have to be a super chat at this point. We got, I think about a dozen more of these lined up. So, Cleveland rocks. How fast will Ryan Day get fired if they lose to Michigan again? He'll be fired on the field.
What? You really?
Yes, he
He's
would.
gonna get fired on the.
He'd be
He's gonna get fired on the
before
field. Yeah.
he would be fired on the field before he even got up the tunnel.
This
Don't
year.
wait to throw more.
This year.
This year. Oh.
He has no excuses to lose to them this year. No excuses.
I know, but like with everything that's going on right now, at least from now till 26, I think that there's got to be some value with keeping some continuity. I get what you're saying under normal circumstances. Yeah. Ohio State losing to Michigan, that's a fireable offense, especially with this many times. But would you look at the circumstances right now of what's going on and say, maybe now is not the time to get rid of a guy that gets us into the playoffs every year just because he lost to Michigan? Like, we need to stay. We need to stay there.
John Cooper. That's the same mentality that kept John Cooper around for 13 seasons.
I'm just saying, like,
as soon as they get rid of John Cooper, national championship. Yeah,
but you guys are right there, like, and you're going to be there. I mean, you would have been in it last year. You would if we had this tournament. So
yeah, well,
I mean, I know that that's a big game to lose, but it's in the new I think that's still a product of the old days of the Big Ten, when the biggest deal was just going to the Rose Bowl. So if you lost to Michigan, you weren't going to the big deal. Now you can both be in the tournament.
Well, you're right. Maybe if they they still have a shot at the college football playoff at that point, they would let him finish it out.
Yeah, like, I mean,
but then he'd be fired after that.
That's so brutal. All right, well, gotta take
it. It is what it is. You can't afford. You can't. I mean, ask Urban Meyer. I mean, that's the game. Illini Ted sleepers. North Carolina State, Iowa State, Northwestern. Ooh, Northwestern, Missouri.
I'm not hearing none of that Northwestern. As an Iowa fan, I just cannot stand them. They have no team, no chance, and yet they find a way to get some wins.
And I don't know that Mizzou is really much of a sleeper either.
Not really, not anymore.
To do well.
I think as an overall brand, they're a sleeper because people still don't think of them as good as what they are. But I think most power projections have them as like fourth or so in the SEC this year, and that's with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. And I mean, that's Missouri. They were the kick around when they came in. They stuck them in the East Division. Like, they're for real now.
Daniel Gygax, WVU is my sleeper pick. They return a lot of players. I know a lot of people were talking about that game against Penn State early in the season. They knock off Penn
Thursday
State.
Game.
Yeah, they knock off Penn State. That's gonna be a big one.
One hell of a Thursday game, if that's true.
Need that game.
Go Black, SEC Championship, Texas versus UGA. I think that's kind of what everybody picked.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to pick against that.
Yeah. Go Black. When Michigan wins, they bring up their rich history contributions to the history of CFB. When they were mad for so many years, it was a sport for lowbrow morons.
It's true. It's true.
Really?
True.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, lots of good people from Michigan. Okay, like we're talking stereotypes here, and that's not always fair. But there's also something to it, and that comment right there is funny because that nails it. That's bullseye.
Mr. Monkey says, "Is this crazy? If a Big 12 team ever wins the national championship, it will be UCF."
I think you're 100% nails, Mr. Monkey, on that one. UCF has the best chance in the future of competing at the highest level in the Big 12. It's going to be programs like KU and Utah this year and K-State, but UCF, with how they're recruiting down there in Orlando, they have a chance to become a juggernaut in the Big 12 and definitely compete for championships. So I would actually agree with you on this one.
I want to see plans within 2 to 3 years of UCF's plans to increase and improve their stadium situation. And if that happens and they do that, everyone else in the Big 12 should really worry that they're actually going to become the king. Central Florida, Orlando, they have a great stadium. They've got the largest alumni, like the amount of kids who are going there. They're going to be huge. A lot of those people are going to be staying in Florida because, the directional, like a lot of those people, they don't spread out a lot. So that's going to be a very powerful combination should they make the investments that required in order to really leverage it. But yeah, UCF could be scary in the future within, say, a decade.
If Miami made their way into the Big 12, it would really squash UCF in the future, though, I think. Miami
Yeah. In fact,
would really hurt UCF's chances of becoming a juggernaut. I don't think Miami ends up in the Big 12, though. Go to the Big 10, so probably not going to have to worry about that. Mr. Monkey.
yeah, I would love to see UCF and USF both in the Big 12 and have that rivalry. I think that could be bigger than a lot of people realize. Like that could be very good for the conference.
Daniel Gygax channeling Woody Hayes here says number 1 offensive line, number 2 front defensive 7, and number 3 running backs. That's all you need to win a championship right there.
But all that takes the right coaching staff to get them in.
Yeah.
Coaching staff's number 1 in college.
But he's right. Like that's your base football. And running backs don't get enough love these days. But sometimes even like the 2 and the 3 yard runs set up the big passes. So they just don't get enough love.
Running backs would be pretty low on the list on this end, at least. Coaching, quarterback, got to have them. Those are the 2 most important, in my view. But offensive line makes sense, and defensive line does make sense too. So trench play.
I think that things changed a little bit. I mean, when you look at Ollie Gordon in Oklahoma State, and you look at what happened in Michigan with their running backs, and now Ohio State is mimicking that. I think we're going through another transition, though. I think that we're switching because these guys are always looking to. You got to switch it up for what everyone's built. Because once they start to build for a lot of passing, you got a lot of heavy defensive back teams, and that's what they recruit in and bring in. You start to go to these running attacks, and they're just not built in the linebackers and the lines to go up against it. That's the only reason why Michigan was what they were. Their line and their running backs. Like he's saying, like J.J. McCarthy is mid, and he got first round pick because their offensive line and running backs are so good. So you're not wrong. Like just traditional thought, running backs are just kind of. But I think we might be going through an evolution, a change. So maybe running backs are coming back.
All right.
Go
ahead.
Most colleges seem to have a committee approach too, though. It's not just like I guess Daniel. You're saying running backs here, so plural. But I think that the old single running back has kind of left the wayside in the NFL and in college football. But if you've got a staple of running backs, then yeah, it's a huge value add. I would say the trench play, though, and defensive line play is more important, just like Daniel's outlined here. So coaching, trench play, quarterback play, all super important. And then, yeah, running backs.
Uh-oh, I'm getting attacked. Someone says that JJ is not mid.
Well, here we go. On a stream where we've made jokes about General Booty, Dick Trickle, Dick
I see where you're
Bull,
going. I see where you're
Eric
going.
Olin. The best punchline of the night comes from Tony Lawson. J.J. McCarthy is the next Tom Brady.
No.
How about I starred one more for you.
Booty is better than McCartney.
Comment of the night. Mid Cartney. Come on, that was just really well done too, Master. I salute.
All right. Do you have any final words before we go? Let's start with you.
Yeah, we've got a episode of Wild Eat University. This is going to be NC State to the Big 12, looking at the fit there to see if it actually is a slam dunk like a lot of folks think. Moan, I think that you and I are going to do that together, right?
Yeah.
To offer some perspectives too. So we're going to record that tomorrow morning. Members, look out for it tomorrow afternoon. So keep a lookout.
And then talk a little bit about Tuesday's show. What we got coming up.
Oh, absolutely. Tuesday's show is going to be a big one. So the Big 12 Mafia show on Tuesday, we're going to break out an actual dollar amount that the ACC, every ACC team needs to get in settlement to make the conference viable still. Been doing some deep math and everything based on contracts, based on payouts and everything, and we'll outlay it all on Tuesday. But really, it's a number, though. ACC survival, once FSU and Clemson get out, it's a number. How much do they need to survive based on how much the contract that they're going to get is going to pay out in the future? versus the Big 12, especially because in the Big 10 and the SEC, teams are going to jump. That's a no-brainer. We all know that. But we're comparing this to the Big 12 to see if it's viable to stay as a conference or not, if you've got a Big 12 option. So no one else is doing this. This is going to be brand new just for us. That's Tuesday show.
I've seen the math. He did all the work on the math, guys. So math don't lie. Immaculate.
Well, there's all the obvious stuff we've got going on with the cases, and now with Clemson's filings, and with all the talk about the House case and everything connected with that, and now having some settlement talk coming forward. But what I want to touch upon, something we haven't even talked about yet, is I don't know if we'll call it a rumor. It's been reported that Fox is actually in the deal with the Pac-2. And what I want to know right now, what's at the top of my head of things to know is, does that include the Oregon State versus Washington State game? Or is it only Oregon State versus Oregon, Washington State versus Washington, and then there's like a Washington State versus Texas Tech game? Because there's 3 Fox games, according to the report. Fox is buying 3 games from them. If Oregon State and Washington State is one of those, then that's very telling. And I'm still sticking with my original story about where those 2 schools are going then. If that's not one of the games that they're buying, Fox might just be getting a really good deal, and that's it. So that's what I'm looking for, of like little details that might come out that most people won't be looking for, is what are the 3 games that Fox is now going to buy from the Pac-2. So if anyone sees that, I am interested.
Yeah, John Canzano broke that story on Twitter/X today. So if anybody wants to read up a little more on that, by all means, check out Mr. Canzano's tweet. For me, I will see you guys on Sunday, as will Immaculate, at 8 p.m. for Mowing After Dark. We'll take your comments and your questions. It's a chat-driven show. So by all means, come up with some questions or comments you have for us, and we will knock them out of the park, and we will not talk about Dick Trickle, General Booty,
Dick Pole,
Harry
Right.
Colin, Harry Balzac, or any of those people related to him.
What a show
this
tonight,
Sunday.
guys.
What a
What a
show.
show.
Unless
And if
General
you don't-
Booty gets picked up
Yeah,
by
well,
Iowa, with
General
no
Booty
promises.
gets picked up by yes.
We
yes.
might. No promises.
If they get a signature from Booty, we'll talk about it. I promise.
Fair game.
We'll talk about it. But other than that, thank everybody for coming out tonight on a Friday night. If you did drink, make sure you don't drive. Thank you again for being the best community on YouTube, and peace out.